It has been 5 weeks of nothing but pure awesomeness with this challenge. It's been amazing. So here I am live for the final challenge video. Okay, so those of you that joined me and participated in this challenge, you know what this is all about. I'm going to wait for a few more people to join in here on this live broadcast. We're going to talk about what we experienced. We're going to talk about what we uncovered about ourselves. Of course, we're going to talk about our physical results. We're going to talk about all of it. Okay, so bear with me a little bit. I did end up catching that creepy crud that's been flooding around through the Southern California area. If anyone lives in Southern California, you know that pretty much probably every other person has whatever's going around right now. I've fended it off pretty well considering. So anyhow, we're going to wait for a number of people to join in here. We've already got a couple hundred. The whole purpose of this broadcast is to talk about and recap the overall challenge that we did. Okay, so it was a weight loss challenge. Those of you that aren't aware of what it was, down in the description, I went ahead and I posted a link to that initial video. Okay, so the initial video that laid out the meal plan, laid out everything. And I know this isn't the ideal time of day to do a broadcast. And I know normally I do them on the Mondays, but I posted up yesterday saying that I was going to have to switch it up simply because I wasn't feeling well yesterday. So as we wait for a few more people to join in here, let's go ahead and see where everybody's watching from. So you can go ahead and comment where you're watching from. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, that like button too. That's going to get some traction over here, get some people on this broadcast so we can actually answer questions and we can talk about our successes with a good audience. Okay, we got Boston, we got Montreal, we got Norway, we got Texas, we've got Ontario, Philadelphia, London, Minnesota, New Zealand, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Kansas, Lake Elsinore, California, New Jersey, Baltimore, North Carolina, Alabama, holy cow, Eugene, Oregon, Atlanta. This is blowing up. Lots of people here. We got more Boston, more Colorado, New York, Salem, Oregon. This is awesome. People are saying, get some sleep. I actually slept pretty darn well considering I was sick. So I think that's why I kicked its butt pretty quick. A little bit congested, but not too bad. We got Fort Worth, Texas in the house. We've got, someone says they're watching from McDonald's, Seattle in the house, San Antonio. We've got Idaho, Orlando, San Jose, California, the moon, Lubbock, Texas, Chicago, New Jersey. This is awesome, guys. Please do hit that like button, hit that share button. Let's try to get as many people on this broadcast as we can. Okay, so let's recap really quick what this was all about. Those of you here probably are aware of it. I laid out a fully structured meal plan that was a 30-day challenge for people to try keto in a fairly strict way where I could be here doing live broadcasts and doing things like that. And that way we can be able to do it all together and be able to see our results. So that link is down below. I laid it all out with a whiteboard. Then I opened up a Facebook group. I opened up these YouTube live broadcasts so that I could answer questions, that we could have some fun with it. And so far, the people that I have seen posting in the group and things like that, I've seen people that have lost as much as 35 pounds just in the last month of doing this whole challenge. So this is amazing. Personally, I noticed that my mental clarity was significantly higher. Okay, this was me personally. And I think the reason that I noticed this was simply because I'm strict, but when I have the social accountability of other people there with me and people that follow me and people that truly respect what I talk about, then it made all the difference in the world. So I noticed a huge increase just in my overall cognitive function, my ability to do videos. And I think it was just because my ketone levels were naturally higher based on everything. So I want to go ahead and ask the audience. And if I'm glancing over to the right, once again, it's simply because that's where the live feed comes through. So that's where I can see how people are, what they're saying and what people are talking about, what questions. And I want to be able to use today's video to talk a lot about what people can do going forward. Okay. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about fasting and what you can do going forward. And then we're also going to talk, of course, about some grocery shopping tips and some overall stuff that you can use just going forward with this. And then lastly, I want to talk about my own experience with my larger weight loss back in the day when I lost 100 pounds and what I learned from that whole situation. Just kind of a continuation of some of the stuff that I've talked about already. Okay, so, wait, I can see 15 pounds loss, 9 pounds, 14 pounds, a lot of people that have lost 15, 20 pounds. I'm curious how much people have lost during this 30-day challenge. 10 pounds total, several inches, 33 pounds, 8 pounds, 25 pounds, 2 weeks, 20 pounds. Wow, that's impressive. 90 pounds, 10 pounds, 4.6 pounds, 16. Okay, so lots of people. Looks like the general range of people in terms of their weight loss is probably between 10 and 20 pounds. Not bad for 30 days strict keto. Okay, so Really impressive. And I think one of the things that I laid out really well in this plan was getting all the prebiotic fibers in. So a lot of people ended up not having success the first couple of weeks. And this is a pretty common thing. And the reason that you weren't going to have a whole lot of success the first couple of weeks is because we were introducing these different fibers in, and these different fibers are sort of recolonizing the gut bacteria. Okay, here's what we have to remember. Anytime we do any kind of fasting or we do any kind of ketogenic diet, we have a pretty dramatic shift in our gut bacteria. And at first, it comes as a shock to the body and can trigger a little bit of water retention. We have to remember we have what's called gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria in the gut. So what will happen is the gram-negative bacteria are technically the bad bacteria, but they still play a pretty critical role. Those tend to die off fairly fast. So once we start keto, once we start fasting, those gram-negative bacteria start to die and the gram-positive bacteria start to flourish. But there's a period of time when the gram-negative bacteria are coming down and the gram-positive bacteria are coming down. Now, they come down slightly different rates. So if my left hand is gram-negative and my right hand is gram-positive, good bacteria, bad bacteria, in essence, they're going to both come down, but the gram-negative bacteria might come down a little faster. So what's happening is, even though the bad bacteria is going down, our total bacteria count is coming down. So what's happening there is digestion sort of gets a little bit wonky. We don't break down food as well. And we have to start rebuilding that. And the way that we rebuild that is with the prebiotic fibers, the asparagus and things like that. So what happens in the beginning is you take in all this fiber, you take in these nutrients, and your body just doesn't know what to do with it because the bacteria levels are down. And it takes a little bit of time for that fertilizer, if we want to call it that, to sort of rebuild that gram-positive bacteria and build your levels back up. So then all of a sudden, about 2 weeks in, weight just starts falling off of people. And if anyone is experiencing this, let me know, because I think this is a pretty common thing. It's like you come on this diet protocol that I laid out, first 2 weeks, maybe a couple pounds here and there. Some people even gained weight the first couple pounds, then all of a sudden it just started falling off. Such a great indicator, because it means that you're getting keto adapted, things are working, they're doing what they're supposed to do. Guys, can I ask you a real quick favor and go ahead and hit that thumbs up button? We got 800 people on this broadcast, but I want to make sure we're hitting that like button. That is super, super, super critical to the success of this challenge and these videos, so that they get out there to the entire audience. You may ever, wonder why I have 2 million subscribers, but only 100,000 people see videos, because YouTube plays algorithmic games. Want to make sure that everybody sees the content. So a lot of people also talk about losing water weight in the beginning. Now, the first couple of weeks, you certainly can lose some water weight. But the interesting thing is a lot of times people don't even lose that water weight and their weight stays the same. And they're wondering, well, am I doing keto wrong? Because why am I not losing any weight? We have to remember that muscle is built relatively easy on keto. So we end up with a little bit more muscular density in some ways. So what ends up happening is, even though you're not losing weight, your body is changing. Now, I'm curious who's experienced that. Has anyone ever not lost weight, stayed in a plateau, but they've noticed their body is significantly different? And people are commenting, people are saying, this is crazy, like, you look amazing. And you're going, the weight hasn't changed one bit. There is, a lot of people saying that's happened. I mean, it's actually really frustrating, and I encourage people that I've worked with in the past to just throw away their scales when that happens, because what the heck? Like, it's almost like, what's good is this scale? Like, I look insanely different, but the scale is telling me that if anything, I've gained weight. I just don't know what the heck to do. Okay, well, there's a lot of different reasons for that. One, you could be losing inflammation that's at a subcutaneous level. Okay, so hear me out on this. We have water that can be on top of our muscles, okay, underneath our skin in an inflammatory sense. So when we first start a dietary change, that goes away because we get healthier and we modulate inflammation, right? Well, once that happens, that water is going somewhere else. That water isn't necessarily getting evacuated out of the body. It could get drawn into muscles. It could get drawn into other areas of the body, causing the muscles to be fuller. So your muscles actually look leaner and denser and more full, but you have less subcutaneous water making you look puffy. So there's a clear example or a clear explanation as to what happens there. It's absolutely normal. So I just don't want people to get discouraged if the scale didn't move, if you see the change with how you look. Okay, so really, really important stuff there. So I just wanted to make sure I said that. And also, again, of course, the fiber thing and the gut bacteria thing that I wanted to talk about. Now, another thing I wanted to focus on is the sodium-potassium balance a little bit. Now, I talked about this a little bit in last week's live broadcast, but what can happen is when you're on keto, you can lose a lot of sodium, but you can also lose a lot of potassium and other minerals. And you never really know what mineral is thrown off for you in particular. Okay, so what happens is sodium's sort of the epicenter for it all. Okay, so sodium will end up getting depleted initially. And when that leaves the body, it takes a lot of other minerals with it. The hard part with measuring that is we don't always know what other minerals we lost. Okay, so we replenish sodium and we handle one part of the equation. Okay, we handle the equation where we put the sodium back in, but what about the other minerals, magnesium, potassium? This is where you have to test things out, because if you get depleted and you lose sodium and you lose other minerals, and then you only replenish sodium, then you're out of balance, right? Okay, so we need sodium, potassium, magnesium, but sodium and potassium are the two that are really important. Those of you that watch Dr. Berg's channel know that he is a huge proponent of supplementing potassium. I am a huge proponent of supplementing potassium as well, simply because on keto, you should be adding sodium, but if you're just adding sodium and you're not getting potassium, it might be an explanation as to why you feel a little bit foggy and a little bit off. So what I've been doing, and recently, I literally just get from Amazon basic potassium chloride. Like, it's basic potassium, okay? Because if you were to go get potassium from a supplement, you're going to be limited to 99 milligram tabs. Those 99 milligram tabs, that doesn't do a whole lot for you. The daily recommended allowance of potassium is like 4,000 milligrams. And if you're losing it, then that means you're going to be taking 40 tabs of potassium pills. So I recommend just getting potassium chloride and taking like a quarter teaspoon and mixing it into your food. And that way you barely notice the difference. But it's interesting because sodium lets water or sort of lets the electricity into the cell, and potassium lets it out. So let me explain this. Minerals are really wild. And they're super hot right now. People are talking about minerals everywhere because I think they're uncovering that it's sort of almost a hack to feeling better. So sodium, in essence, is kind of the opposite of potassium. Sodium turns on the electrical signal into the cell. Okay, so it creates the electrical gradient so that energy flows into the cell. Then once the cell uses the energy, how does it reset? Okay, you pull the trigger, but what pulls the cock back again, right? Like, how do you actually pull the hammer back if you're actually trying to reset? Well, in this case, potassium. And I also use it in the essence like refreshing your computer. Imagine going to Google and typing something in, and it allows you to search one time, and then the computer just loads and never actually, or refreshes, but never actually loads, right? It's just, you get the circle of death on the Mac, right? That's exactly what's happening at the cellular level if you don't have potassium. Sodium is allowing the electrical signal to be sent, but there's no potassium to reset it. So you don't have the resetting capability. So what happens on keto is you lose these minerals, you replenish sodium, and then you're like, okay, I have kind of some energy, but I feel like I'm bonking fast. Potassium is going to be your answer. So I wanted to just give you this because the number one reason why people quit keto, fatigue. They feel like they get fatigued. And it's usually a two-part equation with what's going on. One, it's a sodium potassium thing, almost invariably. Okay. And then the other piece of the equation is they start by law of attrition, they slowly start having little bits of carbs. Okay. And then it gets them out of that zone. They just have a little bit of carbs here, a little bit of carbs there, and they're not being consistent about it. So it ends up completely throwing them off. So I wanted to touch on that because I felt like it was a really important piece. Let's go ahead and let's touch a little bit just on some grocery shopping and some techniques here, just because I've done grocery haul videos, but they're always really long. And I know that you don't always get the full effect. And guys, again, I'm apologizing. I'm congested. The reason I didn't do the broadcast yesterday was because I was under the weather and I just didn't want to push it. So if you're just hopping on here, this is a recap. This is the end of the 1 month keto challenge, but I do want to make sure that everybody knows that all the data, all the meal plans, everything are going to live evergreen on YouTube. So you're going to be able to be rock solid. You're going to be able to get content. You're going to be able to get the meal plan. If you haven't participated in this challenge, you can just see in this video now, you can use the link down below to get over to the keto meal plan videos. That way you can watch it. You can join the Facebook group. Everything's going to remain alive because so many people have had success with it. We've had like 400,000 views on that video. So I know that it's successful. People are saying, I love your grocery haul videos. So let's talk really quick about that. So one of the first things that I recommend with keto, there are so many keto snacks out there these days. you should head into the grocery store and always do your perimeter shopping first. Just because if you're on a budget, you need to make sure that you're getting the essentials to actually eat clean first. So always go, if you're going to eat meat, go to the meat department first, handle that portion, allocate your budget there, because honestly, you can get the most for bang for your buck there. Okay, next step is then you're going to go over to the produce department and you're going to get your next bang for the buck there. Then you're going to start, you have to kind of hit the aisles because you need to get some of the fats and the oils and stuff like that. So you can't just perimeter shop, but that's in essence, the order that you need to go. You need to go meat, you need to go veggies, and then you need to start going down the center aisles. By all means, any of the keto snacks, pork rinds, things like that should be the last things that you generally buy until you are very seasoned with, grocery shopping on keto, simply because it is very easy to fill up the house with those kinds of things. And I have fallen victim to that time and time and time again. So where I load up my pantry with amazing keto treats. Oh, look at this cool new keto item just came out. I'm going to go and put it in my pantry. And the next thing you know, I'm eating it, and I'm eating it all the time. And I'm like, why don't I feel as good? Well, because I just loaded up with a ton of erythritol. I just loaded, and we have to be honest, like I'm not anti-erythritol, but if you have too much of it, you get bloated. Okay. Has anyone ever experienced that with erythritol? Like where, erythritol being the sweetener that's in a lot of keto products, when you look on the back, it's not bad and it's not unsafe. But if you have too much of it, you get bloated. So anyhow, and that just plays into a big effect. So understanding that simple concept of meat, veggies, inner aisles is going to be perfect. Another thing that I also did, I just created a video that's going to go out in a couple of weeks surrounding what to get when you go out to eat at a Chinese food restaurant, what to get when you go out to eat at a Mexican food restaurant, Indian, Thai food. So I've broken it down into all these different kind of resources for people when they're going out to eat. So I think you're going to get a big kick out of that. Yeah, a lot of people end up saying that they were getting bloated. Hey, we've got a lot more people on here. Could everyone comment that hasn't commented yet how much weight they lost or the success that they had during this challenge? I'm just curious. I like to see this. And I always go back through later on and read this live chat so I can see the success that people had. And if you can, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up button, because it does help us out a ton by getting a lot of people in here. Wow, I'm just reading through some of the things that people are saying. This is awesome. Holy cow. This is 17 pounds, 12 pounds. This is awesome. Okay, cool. So still keeping going. 8 pounds, 9 pounds, 13 inches, 65 pounds in 3 months, 3 pounds, but stuck it out. First time checking in. Okay, make sure if this is your first time checking in, all you have to do later on, just go check out the link. It's literally the first link in the description of this video, so you can go and watch the meal plan. Because I know, this channel is gaining about 100,000 subscribers per month. So I know there's a lot of people that have joined my tribe, if you want to call it that, long after this challenge started. So I invite you to just go back, relive the challenge, relive all the live broadcasts, all the video updates and everything are linked in that video so that you can actually watch the live updates and learn with people as they go too. It's really, really fascinating to see just people's success. And I also have a Facebook group that has about 20,000 people in here now just based upon this. Okay, let's talk a little bit about steps going forward and also talk about how often you should fast and what you might want to incorporate later on. I'm sure a lot of you ended up having success implementing the intermittent fasting portion of this protocol. So what I highly recommend that everyone that had success with that does is do not start adding more fasting days just to add more fasting days. That's one of the biggest mistakes that people make. So what they'll do is they start having success with fasting. So they say, well, what the heck, we'll add more. If you watched my video on Sunday, I talked about that being one of the biggest mistakes that I made in my weight loss journey is I was getting emotionally addicted to fasting. It's so easy to have that happen. Okay, so for example, you slip up on your diet. So the next day you decide that you're going to fast. Well, it's not the best way to do things because that's creating this really unhealthy relationship with food. It's my goal with all of you guys and gals to make sure that you have a healthy relationship with food. And what I mean by that is that you're not constantly demonizing certain things, and you're definitely not demonizing food in general, right? With fasting, we have a tendency to be like, food is bad until it's time to eat, and then we gorge ourselves. And it creates this binge and purge mentality, which is just not a good attitude to have towards food in general. Food is fuel. We do need it, okay? But we don't want to have this relationship where we feel so good fasting that we fast all the time. And that's just really, really important to remember. But from a metabolic side of things and from a success side of things, it's going to affect your weight loss if you fast too much. Okay, your thyroid levels will start to decline, and that's not what we want. You want your thyroid levels to stay nice and elevated. And the way that we do that is by continually having calories coming in, but having the fasting be sort of the spontaneous weight loss that we need. When you look at any kind of medical journal or any kind of clinical study, the results come through and they talk about spontaneous calorie restriction as being a very powerful catalyst for weight loss. That is really what's important. We want fasting to continue to be spontaneous caloric reduction. If fasting happens every day, no longer is it spontaneous. Okay, then it's consistent. It's just your eating pattern. So I tend to totally twist it up. To be completely honest, some weeks I don't even fast at all. Some weeks I'll fast 3 days. Some weeks I'll fast 4. Some weeks I'll fast 1. I try to keep it somewhat random, and I don't really have a whole lot of reasoning behind which days I do fast and which days I don't, other than just being practical with what I'm doing that day. If I'm traveling, it's a great day to fast. If I'm busy and I'm mentally going to be engaged and I'm filming, it's a great day to fast because I don't have to concern myself with food. I don't have to concern myself with breaking the pattern up. I can just go through the day and not eat. It's easier that way. And that way, I'm not necessarily creating the relationship surrounding food. I'm creating the relationship surrounding my daily life. Eating is it's just easier to not eat on those days, right? So I encourage everyone to think about it like that, because if you fast too much, you just set yourself up for failure. And I don't want to see you in 6 months be at a total plateau because you're just having a hard time with this. Hey, so let's go ahead and let's open this up to a few questions. And I do want to talk, about things that I've experienced with my weight loss. So I invite everyone that's here to try to hang in there. I know these live broadcasts can be a little bit nauseating to watch because I ramble on and there's so many questions and things like that. But I encourage you to stick with it because I do want to talk about some very important things that I discovered during my weight loss and things that I think are going to just be powerful for you guys. Someone's asking about ACV pills versus the drink. Apple cider vinegar pills versus the drink. The drink is always better, but the ACV pills will still get you the acetic acid portion. The acetic acid is what is important when it comes down to modulating blood glucose. However, it's the prebiotic effect of the mother that's really powerful with apple cider vinegar. Fun fact on apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is not probiotic like people talk about. It's prebiotic. It's the pectin. So when you talk about the mother, it's kind of funny because Bragg's apple cider vinegar is always talking about their proprietary mother. Like it's called the mother in apple cider vinegar is what makes their product unique. And in some ways it is, but all the mother really is the cloudiness, which is the prebiotic fiber. Like if you let apple cider vinegar settle, it goes to the bottom. It's just chunks of prebiotic fiber in a really fine-tuned way. So it's pectin. When you shake it up, you get that pectin that basically feeds your gut bacteria. So have you ever noticed, this is kind of funny, when you're unhealthy, apple cider vinegar bloats you. But when you're healthy and when your diet's in check, it does the opposite. Has anyone ever noticed that? Okay, the reason is because prebiotic fibers grow bad bacteria just as much as they grow good bacteria. So we want to have our body in that state where we have slightly more good bacteria than bad. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't start ACV immediately because it has other health properties that are going to help you out. Lots of questions coming in. Okay, Sarah, you keep asking about keto for night shift workers. It's coming up in like another couple of weeks. It's filmed already. It's edited. It's ready to go. Someone says plateau at 3rd week. Should I add a workout? Definitely. Okay, if you're plateauing at the 3rd week, you should add some workouts in. I wanted to keep this a little bit more nutritional based, but I know that people are going to ask questions surrounding the workouts. Yes, if you're still plateaued after 3 weeks, sprinkle in a workout, but don't go balls to the wall. Just add it in. It's a simple catalyst. Let's see. I'm answering some questions. There's a lot, so give me a moment while I scroll through. Should you do 1 40-hour fast per week? Someone says. I think 1 40-hour fast every 3 weeks or so is probably the best. Someone, T. Krinsky, asks if I'm always in ketosis. It's a good question. No, I'm not always in ketosis. And I've talked about this pretty openly. I've been doing keto for close to 10 years now, probably one of the oldest veterans in that world. But I do what's called a targeted ketogenic diet, where I have periods of time where I go off of keto. But usually what it is it's more like 4 or 5 months on keto and a month off. So it's kind of a cycle like that where I give myself a little bit of a break, but the lion's share of the time I'm on keto. And you can usually tell when I'm on keto or off keto. It's kind of funny. If you look at me when I'm off keto, I hate to say it, but like I get circles under my eyes. I'm kind of puffy, like to my standards. I just feel like I'm puffy. And it's kind of wild. But then a couple weeks after, then it starts to subside as my body adjusts. And then I go back into keto, and it's like, it's just wild. And if you watch a lot of my videos, you can probably notice, you're like, Thomas is on carbs in that video. Thomas is, it's kind of funny, just something to look for. Someone keeps bringing up zinc. So zinc, I don't know if it's going to help you with feeling cold. That's the question. Let's talk about what makes you cold when you're fasting, because here's what's wild. Oop, just kind of glitched on me for a second. I think we're all good. Okay, so the reason that you might get cold when you fast, and let me ask this first. If anyone gets cold when they fast for 16 hours or anything like that or more, can you just comment cold? Because I'm curious how many people get cold, because not everyone does. Just comment cold. I'm going to look over here and wait for people. Okay, already coming in. People saying cold, cold, cold. Okay. Wait for a second. Drink some water. Again, guys, forgive me. I'm at the tail end of this cold. Freaking freezing, someone says. All right, cool. So we got lots of cold people. I'm going to get you excited here. So found out some recent evidence as to why you're getting cold when you're fasting. And it doesn't have to do with your metabolism. It has to do with the migration of specific uncoupling proteins. I'm going to put this very, very simply. We have normal body fat called adipose tissue, and that is white fat that is on our abdomen, and it's the fat that's like visual that we see. It's the unsightly fat. Well, this white fat has a degree of brown fat properties. What that means is white fat doesn't do anything other than insulate us. Brown fat has thermogenic properties, meaning it has what are called uncoupling proteins, which have sort of a mitochondrial effect of generating their own heat. So there's certain kinds of fat on our body, fat that generates heat and fat that does not, okay? Fat that generates heat is actually more preferential for the body. So the body tries to hold on to brown fat, believe it or not, because the brown fat is likely to keep us warm. So the body actually wants to burn the unsightly white fat. A lot of times it just doesn't have an opportunity to. So what happens is when we fast, they've noticed in studies that during fasting, there is a migration or a shift in standard fat in our adipose tissue, gaining visceral fat-like properties. What that means is we have brown fat that is actually turning to white fat. So people say, well, when I'm fasting, that means that my fat that burns heat is going away? That's bad. I don't want that. Well, while you're fasting, you do want that. You want the brown fat to go away because the body's going to utilize the white fat when you're fasting. So when you get cold, the reason you are getting cold when you fast is because you are temporarily burning more of the white fat, which means the brown fat is becoming white fat to get burned. So what you're feeling is literally the switch over from the body generating heat to actually burning fat for fuel. That is why you get cold. It's not your metabolism slowing down. It's actually your metabolism in a lot of ways speeding up. Now, the other thing that we have to look at is we have something called orexin. Orexin is a neurotransmitter that does affect our body heat. Now, in studies with mice, they found that mice that had defective orexin neurons that couldn't produce orexin, they found that those mice ended up having a serious issue with getting cold when they would fast. They would go seriously hypothermic. Whereas the mice that did not have defective orexin levels ended up keeping their body heat elevated. So what we found is that orexin plays a role in how warm we are when we fast. So what's wild about this is sometimes you find people that don't get cold when they're fasting, and sometimes you find people that do. What does this mean for us? It means that some people have higher levels of orexin neurotransmitters or neurons that produce orexin than others. So how do we increase orexin levels? Two ways. One is to eat, okay, but we can't eat when we're fasting because that's not going to work. The other is coffee. Coffee stimulates orexin levels. So we can actually get ourselves warm by drinking coffee in a two-part way. One, it's a warm beverage, but two, it stimulates the neurons to produce orexin, which actually cause our body heat to elevate anyway. Okay, now I noticed a couple of good questions come in. There's a feature with live chats called Super Chat. And so sometimes you see these brightly colored chats come through in the live chat. What they are is there are people asking questions in a paid fashion. YouTube has an option for people to send a super chat where you add money to a chat and it gets highlighted. So it just pops out. But it's also, I always appreciate people doing that. You don't, by all means, you don't have to do it. I'm just saying they stand out and I answer those questions. Someone says, I supplement coffee by keto, going to give me any spike? No, you're not going to have an insulin spike with that. Then Life with Horses TV says, hi, can we use potassium citrate too, or is potassium chloride better? How much sodium do we need each day? I like potassium chloride because I feel like it's a more general potassium. Citrate can give you a little bit of diarrhea, so just be a little bit cautious of that. I was talking about potassium earlier in this broadcast, talking about getting yourself some potassium chloride simply because it's going to help balance out that sodium potassium pump, which, fun fact, 40% of our daily energy comes from operating that sodium potassium pump. So that whole potassium thing I talked about, very important. Someone asked a question. Sarah says, what do you do when you're not on keto? Could we get a video on that? How much does it change too much? Give you some quick outlines on that. If you're not on keto or you're going to come off keto, first of all, I do have a video talking about how to come off of keto. But I highly recommend the main goal is keeping insulin levels low. Okay, so really low glycemic carbohydrates when you're coming off of keto. And I still don't ever keep my carbohydrates over like 120 grams, even when I'm off keto. Okay, so very important. Okay, sorry, I'm seeing other questions coming here. Coffee or caffeine regarding orexin? Coffee specifically, because a lot of it's the polyphenol effect. Hey, I want to talk really quick about thyroid for a second too, because actually I've seen a lot of things popping up. Keto, and I don't know if anyone while doing this challenge had their thyroid levels tested. It's not uncommon to see your thyroid T3 levels go down on keto, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, we don't have to be paying attention to your thyroid levels, because what's important is your TSH levels. Okay, so let me explain something really quick here. T3 is the active form of thyroid in our blood. This is the thyroid hormone that regulates our metabolism, okay? But it's not the level of T3 in our blood that matters. It's the level of T3 that's actually getting utilized in the body, okay? Because if we have excess T3 that doesn't get utilized, it does us no good. So what's important is that we actually have thyroid that's getting utilized. And this is where thyroid sensitivity comes into play. So let me compare it to insulin sensitivity, because everyone knows what that is for the most part. Insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance, right, where your cells no longer use or respond to insulin because they see it so much. It happens with thyroid too. Imagine your thyroid levels being so high for so long that your cells are just kind of like, talk to the hand, thyroid, because like you're just pumping out so much, I don't even know what to do with you anymore. Okay, that would be an example of somewhat thyroid resistance, where it doesn't matter if your thyroid levels are high or not. If they're not getting utilized by the cells, who cares? But when it comes down to thyroid sensitivity, keto seems to improve it. So what that means is our thyroid levels might be lower, but we're actually utilizing the thyroid that's in the bloodstream. So effectively, our thyroid is actually doing better. So I just don't want you to get hung up on that, for those of you out there, especially the women that are really concerned about that, okay? Very important to not be concerned about it. But one thing that you can do to boost the thyroid sensitivity anyway is take zinc. I usually recommend like 40 milligrams of zinc. That's a good amount. That's going to help you out significantly. Remember, zinc plays a big role in cellular recycling and production of new cells. So you see it manifest, zinc deficiencies manifest in cells that have fast turnover. So for example, zinc deficiency, you're going to see hair loss. Zinc deficiency, you're going to see a suppression in your immune system. Zinc deficiency, you're going to see a change in your taste buds. If you notice that you literally things taste different, you might need to start supplementing zinc. Okay, so very, very important. Someone says, do you believe green eggs and ham will help you drop weight? Not in a car, not in a plane, not in a boat, not on a train, my friend. I'm sorry. How do you germinate your raw nuts? Honestly, you can just sprout them. That's just kind of a random question. Okay, someone says they've been having trouble sleeping while they're on keto. Pretty common thing. Fun fact again, a small amount of MCT oil is shown to elevate tryptophan in the brain, which means that it can help you get to sleep a little bit easier. Hey, can we get some thumbs up here? I've noticed we've got like 1.2 thousand people on this video right now. I just want to have people hit that like button, hit that thumbs up button, because that really does help get this out to the other subscribers. I'm more concerned with people that are doing this challenge, seeing this video more than anything else. Hey, let me talk about some of my results really quick, just from a purely statistical standpoint. I started this challenge, this 30-day weight loss challenge, at 189 pounds, and I am now at 184.5. So I lost about 5 pounds. I feel like I tightened up. I feel like things improved. I did actually test my VO2 max, but it's not super important. I test it frequently. I had about a 0.5% improvement in that. So a decent improvement in my VO2 max, probably because my training changed. Okay. I also had a slight improvement on my squat, which I always do as a front squat because my back just is jacked up from being overweight for so long. So I had about a 5% improvement on my squat. Bench press stayed about the same. I actually lost some strength in some of my auxiliary lifts. I lost strength in the shoulder press, which is interesting. Anyhow, not a lot of this matters, but I just documented things. But considering that I had strength improvements upon weight loss was pretty powerful for the most part. I only lost strength in one overhead move, and there's so many different variables there. So it's kind of funny. I don't know if anyone also experienced strength increases while simultaneously losing weight, but pretty fascinating stuff. I wasn't here to do an experiment for myself. I just always document things. So, you look at that stuff, it's just pretty interesting. I recommend people always document whatever kind of whatever workouts they're doing, whatever things like that, just so they have an idea, because if you're not data driven, then you're just guessing all the time. Okay. So what I do want to do here, cover one more thing. I know we got a lot of people. One more thing before I start talking about some of the things I experienced with my weight loss, because I figured it's a good time when I've got a lot of people here. One of the most common things that people keep talking about is cheat meals. We have to talk about them because everyone that's doing this challenge right now is probably at a state where they feel like they could have a cheat meal. One of the things that I always recommend, and I was sitting with a client of mine last week that came to visit me and was sitting in front of me, and I saw his eyes light up and kind of a light bulb go off when I explained this to him. Cheat meals should almost never be planned. Why? Because it develops, again, this unhealthy emotional relationship with food. Cheat meals should be at random, and they really shouldn't be cheat meals. They should be refeed meals. You want to know what my strategy is for a cheat meal? Most of the time, it's waking up that morning, looking at my wife and saying, "Do you feel like having some ice cream tonight?" "Sure." "Okay, let's do it." That's it. It's not like I said, "Hey, it's been exactly 2.7 weeks since I've had a cheat meal. I need to have it." People think that I get super analytical about when I have my cheat meals. No, I don't. I get analytical about the calories afterwards. I mean, I pay attention to everything, but let me explain more about that. The point is, if I were to sit there constantly trying to give myself a reward for food, then I'm associating food as a reward. It's the same reason, like potty training my son right now, right? He's a little before 2 years old. He's successfully potty trained, by the way, at under 2 years, which I'm very happy about. The tendency is to want to reward him when he goes potty with a treat, with food, right? The tendency is to do that a lot. And we start realizing, my wife and I realize, like, okay, well, we could do this, and we do it on occasion, but that starts to create a little bit of an unhealthy relationship with food. And now I'm not trying to give parenting advice. I'm giving an example, right? Next thing you know, happiness is associated with food, or reward is associated with food. So, we reward him with praise, and we vary it. So he has all kinds of different rewards. Point is that when we do that to ourselves, next thing you know, we feel like we are in some kind of, we're holding ourselves back when we're not cheating, right? Because now all of a sudden that was the reward. If you feel like having it and it fits into the realm and you feel like you've been good and you feel like having something good, that's when you have it. But don't have this premeditated approach on it. It's okay to get excited and have a reward. I'm not trying to take the fun out of it, but you just don't want to have that be a normal thing all the time. That's going to mess you up. Now, what about recovery? How do you recover? Maybe it was a planned cheat meal. Maybe it wasn't. You're going to hate me for saying this, but there is no protocol after a cheat meal, really. Okay, people say, well, should I just fast? Well, when you think about it, that's actually a pretty scary way to do things. That just instilled in your mind that you can binge and then fast. I love fasting, and quite frankly, I love all of you guys that are watching these videos, and I don't want you to develop issues with eating. I just don't. It's so important. And I can't bear to see that happen. So I've been there, and this is leading into some of the things I'm going to talk about with my own weight loss and falling on the sword with just being totally honest with you. I don't want to see that happen. You need to just roll with the punches. After a cheat meal, you course correct by going right back to what you're supposed to do. You don't trim calories. You don't say, I ate too much last night, so I'm going to trim a little bit off today. No, don't punish yourself. Get back on the wagon and get back on the straight and narrow. Okay. You don't fight addiction by going completely the opposite direction to completely overboard, right? Okay. You don't, that's fighting one addiction with another addiction. And you're fighting an addiction to a cheat meal with an addiction to fasting. Fighting addiction with addiction is never a good thing. Okay. So it's going to help you out a lot. Okay. And I'm sorry that might rub people the wrong. I saw some people saying, shut up in the thing. I don't understand why people say that kind of stuff. But the point is that that's important to me for your longevity. And that's why I want to talk about some of my experience. So hang in there. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I kind of went through, why I lost weight, like what kickstarted my weight loss process. And hopefully this will help motivate everybody here. Okay. So I was working in the corporate healthcare world. Okay. I was running what's called an ancillary lab services company. I was overweight. I was unhappy. I was managing about 1,200 physicians at the time. And for me, it was something that had just clicked that, okay, people talked to me. Sure, I knew I was overweight, but something just clicked one day. There was no crazy call to action. And I developed within 2 months of starting to lose weight, this insanely unhealthy relationship with food, to the point where I was obsessed with logging my food to the degree of being really unhealthy. Okay. Like I would log everything. I would log my sips of water. And I thought at first I was just being data driven, but then I would find myself getting depressed. Okay. So I would find myself logging my food, and I would say things like this. I'm going to be completely honest, because why the heck not? Okay. I would eat almonds. I would log my almonds, and like it would be an ounce was like 24 almonds. Well, I would have 27 almonds, whatever. Right. And then I would say things to myself like, oh, you fatty. Like I'd talk to myself like that. This is horrible negative self-talk, because I was trying to just make myself feel like crap about what I was doing, about how I'd have 3 extra almonds. It was turning into this horrible vicious cycle. And I'm paraphrasing this and condensing this. The point is I was developing such an unhealthy relationship with food that then I would just, in an effort to avoid the damage to myself that I was casting upon myself through this negative self-talk, then I just avoided food altogether, because I didn't want to succumb myself to my own negative self-talk, if that makes sense. It's like I was avoiding the abuse of myself, because I knew inherently and invariably every time that I would log something, I would find something wrong with it. And that was a serious problem. So I would avoid it. I would avoid logging. And I cascaded into this world of fasting where I would just fast for 3-4 days. And guess what? Plateau upon plateau upon plateau upon plateau, simply every time I would do that. And the point in me saying this is, you don't even need me to explain the point. You get it, right? Okay, so you have to be able to just keep it real, and you have to be able to have a plan. And that plan is exactly why I had laid this meal plan out. I wanted people to be able to have a structure and to be able to tell you this is when you should fast and this is when you should not fast, because you don't want to be going down the road of just messing yourself up. Okay, so if we kind of continue on some of the experiences that I had, I would fast, and then I would end up going to Jack in the Box was usually my vice. Okay, I would usually end up at Jack in the Box, and I'd usually end up with 3 or 4 of those cruddy little tacos that they would have, and that came from years of running track in high school, where after track I would go and I'd get like 6 of those Jack in the Box tacos because I could get away with it. I was running miles and miles and miles, and I was an athlete, and then all of a sudden here I am trying to lose weight at probably about 260 pounds at this point, and I'm defaulting to what was instilled in me at a younger age when I was an athlete as a reward. Because the point is that we always fall right back into our same things. And if you don't have that plan, and if you don't have that structure set up, you're going to encounter that. And that is exactly, we didn't have what we have today when I was going through this. We had YouTube, but we didn't have people doing what they do as much today. I didn't have a Thomas DeLauer that I could turn to for motivation. People will watch my videos and it's not always about just learning the next fact. I'm curious, actually, out of the people that are watching this broadcast right now, who watches my videos for motivation, inspiration, and accountability? Okay. Yes, he's already going on. I talk to so many people, and people will watch my videos because they want to remain motivated and reminded, not just because they're trying to follow if you try to follow everything I teach, you're going to drive yourself nuts. Okay. Like, come on, don't kid yourself. If you follow literally, you're going to never have a life. And also you're going to find there's so much conflicting stuff that you're just going to be stuck. It's motivation and it keeps you accountable. And that's why I put out so much content, because I didn't have that. And that killed me. Okay. And it took me longer to lose the weight than it should have because of that. It took me a couple of years, which isn't bad to lose 100 pounds, I guess. But I talk to people that lose 100 pounds in less than a year and keep it off. You can do it. Absolutely. And, if people would always give me the worst advice, and it was always just, Thomas, you're going to, get rid of your friends, or this is going to happen if you continue going down the path that you're going. And most of the time I would dwell on it and it would cause a problem and it would just send me down this horrible spiral. I'm going to start doing more content on this because I feel like it's important. I feel like people need to know it. And if you want to see more of this content, can you go ahead and just comment, say like more, more of your story. I'm just totally curious. If I did more content like that, would people watch it? Because I think it's important for people to know it personally. But someone says, following you drives me crazy. Okay, well then there's the door. You can leave. Yeah, see, a lot of people do want the story. I think it helps people and it ties things together because, I don't know, I just think it's an important piece. But I wanted to put this all together and end it on somewhat of an emotional note and just remind everyone just how important it is to have a support system, to have a plan, to not go overboard, to remember that you don't have to fast for the rest of your life, even though it feels absolutely unreal and amazing. Okay, remember that science is only as good as what the science is today, because that science is going to change again tomorrow. Okay, and it's going to it's going to constantly change. And it's my job to continue to put that out there. We just want to shout out Sarah's super chat here. She said, "I swear I feel better immediately when starting keto just because of the positive mindset you put me in because of your videos." That's a good point. That's actually what I really want to end on. Let's get a big thumbs up and a like button for positivity, because we can't trick ourselves into being positive. I wasn't always a positive guy. I was probably one of the most negative, pessimistic, depressed people that you would have met. You can see it in the pictures when I was overweight. This was a learned behavior to be positive. I don't try to sugarcoat things and become positive simply because I have an ability to. I try to legitimately look at the world with a different lens. And sometimes even my wife will say, "Thomas, you have to take off the rose-colored glasses for a minute." And I'll say, "I like my rose-colored glasses," because that's what gives me an honest look at what is the world to me. I'm also a businessman, and I also understand the way that you need to look at things, and that you need to be able to take an objective and look at things, right? That doesn't mean that I have to have a pessimistic or negative look. So I really encourage everyone, no matter what the situation, to try to just stand firm in your positivity, not change it just because someone tells you to. And just because you're being positive doesn't mean you're being weak. It does not mean that you're sugarcoating things. It means that you are choosing to keep your cortisol levels low so that you can make educated decisions. You've all seen me pissed off and upset in videos before, so you know it's true. Anyhow, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of this challenge. And thank you for being on this live broadcast and engaging. And I'm going to try to do these more often, specifically on given topics, and do more Q&As. Another thing that I'm thinking about doing is maybe even like a monthly Q&A kind of thing, where I can have people kind of send in their questions ahead of time. There's so many, I can never answer all the questions, but I just love being able to help as much as possible. Guys, make sure you're keeping it locked in here on my channel. Videos just about every single day. You all rock. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next video and the next challenge. Oh, wait, you know what, guys? One thing to remember, January, in the beginning of January, I'm doing another challenge specifically geared towards intermittent fasting. So not so much on the keto, but teaching people how to intermittent fast. So mark your calendars. Okay. Who's in? Go ahead and comment if you're in, to say I'm in, and you'll hear all the details about that early on in the year. Okay. Probably towards the end of the year. Awesome. So many people in. You guys rock. See you soon.